Hello and welcome to the Corgi Town USA podcast. We are here for you every Thursday with all things Corgi. I'm Candy. This is Chuckles in my lap. He is a tricolor Corgi, all sass and floof. He is the president of the Corgi committee and the spokescorg for Corgi Town USA. Also with us we have...
Hi, I'm Catherine, and my little Corgi is a Pembroke Welsh cardigan mix. He is brown and white, we think.
Yeah.
He is brown and white. He was,
Merle eye.
Merle eye. He has the cutest Merle eye.
Yeah.
And I have and I also have an honorary Corgi. His name is Wigan, and Wigan is an Australian cattle dog, both out of the shot of our broadcast.
Yeah, but they're all they're Corgi committee members.
They are Corgi committee members, yes.
So we today we are going to talk about different working animals. And this is a hot button subject.
It is.
Yeah. There's a lot of debate on from what I understand, ESAs, emotional support animals, were one of the ones that I guess there was a little bit of abuse with those programs, unfortunately. Right. And what I mean by abuse, and these are based on things that I've read. I don't have any anecdotes, but some people were registering their animals as emotional support animals when really they were just pets. And so they were using them to bring them into places where pets normally couldn't be.
Correct.
They were also flying with them without paying the fee because it's an ESA and they didn't charge for that.
Right.
That unfortunately has made it very hard to do things like fly and bring your ESAs where you need them for people who are actually dependent on them.
And as someone who is not as much, and so I don't abuse it. But
Digby is your emotional support animal.
Digby is,
but we also did some training. We also did some training with him, and part of that is the training, and the training makes them. But that's just one example.
That's just one example.
There are other work.
Yeah, and if in the beginning, and for those of you who are new to our show, in May of 2020, I lost my beloved, darling husband, and I was an emotional wreck. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I still kind of am, but Digby came into my life. Thank you to my dearest friend Candace and Digby putting his head on my lap when I would go visit, and he came into my life, and having him in the car on trips and then walking into stores with me and going different places with me was huge.
Yeah, but we also did training with him.
We did a lot of training with him.
Yeah, he's a legitimate emotional support animal. He is registered and he is trained.
That's right.
And so, a lot of that is in the training, but that is just one example. But that's what makes this a hot button issue.
Absolutely.
Is that there has been some abuse, and it kind of ruffles feathers. But there's a reason why we have things like emotional support animals. Why you have the training.
Right.
But we just celebrated one of our good friends and past guest, Bebo. We celebrated his 3rd birthday, and so Chuckles and I were at the party, and we ran into an old friend, Nicole Spickerman. She's a Corgi mom, and she has working animals. So should we bring her on?
Absolutely. Let's bring her on.
Let's get some good information here. Nicole, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much for taking your time today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. So I had some questions. And so we just we started this with talking about ESAs and emotional support animals. But can you give us a brief overview of maybe like the main types or the different types of working animals?
Yeah, so there's emotional support animals, which I also did kind of want to touch on that subject though. So emotional support animals actually don't have public access, which is to go into stores and stuff like that, where general public goes. They do have rights to the Fair Housing Act, so they can live in non-pet friendly, if it says no pets, they can live there with their human. And then until recently, they were allowed on flights. Now, pretty much they are banned since the beginning of this year. So now they're just considered regular pets on flights.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then you have, and emotional support animals are great. They have a great purpose for people that do need the emotional support and stuff like that. And usually with those, it's usually through your doctor or psychiatrist or therapist will recommend it. They actually don't require any special kind of training, just because they are more just their presence alone just makes you comforted. And
But
then
I
there's
think
also
socialization was kind of what we were talking about with Digby, like
Oh,
getting him.
okay.
We worked with him to be sure that he was going to be well behaved in public as she took him places.
Right. And I would always ask before I stepped into a store or anything if it was okay to bring him, and if it wasn't, that would be fine. I could come back later.
You didn't Karen out on them.
I didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't tear him a new one. And I frequently do that for all sorts of other reasons, but it just, and people are generally nice enough,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you
And
let
as
them
long as
know.
the dog is behaving and they're not growling and barking and lunging at the at other people, or if they do see another team, a service dog team, as long as they're not a nuisance to them, honestly, I was like, I'll probably get a little backlash from this, but honestly, like, I'm okay with that, as long as they're not, like, if I go in with my own service dog and a dog is lunging, growling, I leave the area immediately, because I'm like, okay, well, I'm not putting my own dog in danger. He's worth, tons of money and my life to me. So I'm like, we usually just avoid those. But, that little distraction could be the alert that he misses, that could be seriously damaging to me. Because all of a sudden now this dog is threatening him. His attention's now on this dog. So honestly, I was like, as long as dogs are behaved, I'm cool. I'm like, I'm not going to sit there and investigate. And, I've seen some other service dog teams that will sit there and they follow people around and film them. And I'm just like, why do that? Who has the energy for this?
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I don't have time for that. I'm here to either shop or just do what I need. And, and especially if the dog is being aggressive, like it just takes that one tug for them to get loose and, and then be on me and my dog. So I'm like, no, just de-escalate, leave. So there's ESAs. There's also therapy dogs, which I have done in the past, with Kiba as a puppy, and then also with my pet corgi Daisy. And therapy dogs go to like nursing homes to visit with the people there, and then also sometimes to schools, to hospitals. But more so, like, therapy dogs are there for other people, and just to be a visitor to them, bring them comfort. It's actually really rewarding. A lot of times doing it, sometimes we were the only people that visited some of these people in the nursing homes or assisted living homes. So sometimes we were their only visitors, and so they look forward to us every week. We got to know and hear so many stories, and and then of course it was always heartbreaking, going in and someone that we saw for, years all of a sudden wasn't there anymore. And you're like, oh, just not gonna even ask because I don't want to hear it. Like I can already figure out what happened.
Sure.
But then we also had a lot of fun going into schools and the children reading to the dogs, and then of course it encouraged kids to read more and get better at reading, because the quicker they finish their story, they would have like an allotted time. And if they finished their story quick enough, they got to then play with the dog for the rest of the time until it was the next kid's turn. So it was like a little rewarding and encouraging them to read, and get better at reading and stuff like that. So that was a lot of fun. So yes, and there's therapy dogs. And then of course, there's like, military canines. There's also search and rescue. There is police dogs and stuff like that. And of course, when those dogs, they don't even have public access rights. The service, like even, service dogs do, unless they're on duty and doing their specific job. But for the most part, if their handler is not on a case or something like that, of course, then, you know, they're just a pet at that point. And then, of course, the big one that's the big controversy that gets a lot of people confused, you know, besides ESA and service dog, but the biggest one is the service dog. And they are the biggest thing.
On cue.
Yep.
Like they've been trained.
Hi, Kiba.
This is the Corgi Town podcast where corgis run the town and they
That's
have
right.
lots of opinions and they come out mid-broadcast.
Ciel, come here. What are you guys sparking at?
They're
Daisy.
protecting you. They're being fierce protectors.
Apparently. Daisy, come here. Kiba, okay.
So
Hi.
support animals are the big controversy.
Yeah. Daisy, that's enough. So yeah, service dogs, even though they're CL is not behaving. Hi, sir. Yes, you. So what really makes them a service dog is, one, they're trained to do at least one task to help mitigate their person's disability. And that's the biggest thing, you know, that a lot of people don't realize, is that, you know, you have to be disabled. You know, and it's not even that you have to be on disability, because that's so hard to get on.
Yeah,
it's more of just, you have to be medically disabled. So your doctor, your psychiatrist, therapist, whoever has to say that what you have is, you know, limiting your normal life activities.
Right. And for instance, we had Delilah Evangeline and her corgi mom.
Yes.
And Delilah is a diabetic alert dog.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And, you know, and
That's
diabetes
ridiculously impressive.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember Delilah? Yeah.
I do remember
she gets up to her nose and alerts her that her blood sugar's not. But yeah, that's an example of somebody we've had on that.
Yeah, no, it's amazing the things they can do. I've met a dog, this was a few years ago, but you know, when I used to work in pet retail, we had a mother and daughter come in, and the daughter was really sickly and stuff like that. Turns out that I forgot what she has exactly, but she constantly was getting like cancer, and especially like brain cancer, and they just get they find little bits of it, you know, and of course go in and remove it. And so they actually found a place that trained the dog to smell the cancer cells. And so the dog would actually alert and let them know the moment cancer cells were present, you know, in her daughter. So they were able to go in, do a scan, find it, remove it before it became, you know, too, you know, big or anything like that. And I was just like, oh my God, I never even thought about that, like to sniff out cancer cells, you know, and stuff like that.
I wonder if certain breeds are better at that than others, because
I don't know,
bloodhounds.
I'm getting, because it's a trigger topic for me.
Sure.
I'm getting all teary-eyed, like every dog in the
world. You're a survivor.
Well, I'm a survivor and brain my beloved husband, and I, you know, so fast, and I could only imagine if every dog was trained to be able to sniff that out.
Yeah.
Dream on, Catherine. Dream on.
Oh, but it's amazing. But it is an amazing thing, and it's we're all incredibly impressed, and it's amazing. So I wanted to talk about you. Let's now we know Daisy is your pet, but you also have tell us about your working animals and your menagerie there.
So, well, I have 3 corgis. I have Daisy, who's my pet. She's kind of my middle child. And then I have Kiba. Kiba, come here. Come here, my old man.
Oh, Kiba.
Kiba, come here. Come here, old man.
So if you're listening and not viewing, Kiba is a beautiful tricolor, but cardigan?
Pembroke.
So it is a tricolor. Okay, it's hard to tell because I saw the ears, and so sometimes it's not hard to tell. But yeah, Kiba is a tricolor Pembroke. Continue.
Yeah. So he is my first service dog, and what was that? That was a weird bark seal. Anyway, so so Kiba is my first service dog. He's 11 now, so he's retired. Work is, he can't keep up with me as much anymore. So he's officially retired.
What's the service dog? What was Kiba's job?
So
Specifically
Kiba's
as your
job,
service.
So Kiba, I got very lucky with, and he naturally alerted me at least 5 minutes or so before an anxiety attack would hit. And I was having severe anxiety attacks,
Wow.
During that time, because I wasn't seeing anybody, so I wasn't on medication or anything. And just random things would just trigger me. I'd be totally fine, and then all of a sudden I would be a sobbing mess in the corner, shaking, or I would have to just essentially drop everything I was shopping for in a store and just leave the store to get in my car so I could have my anxiety attack in peace.
Right.
And so,
like there's any peace to an anxiety attack, but yes, I know what you mean. So you can have it in solitude.
Yeah, there's a great oxymoron for you.
Let me panic in peace, please.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I've also had an anxiety attack in public working before, and I'm in the back room and everyone's coming up to me and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I am okay. I don't know why I'm rocking back and forth in this chair just sobbing, but just leave me alone."
Exactly.
So after that, I was just like, no, the public doesn't need to be involved in these.
Right.
So Kiba I got very lucky with, and he naturally alerted, because there's certain things that you can't train dogs to just do. They just have to naturally pick up on it. So I didn't get him as a service dog or anything like that. I wanted a Corgi. I got him, and he kind of just fell into the role, essentially, because then once I started realizing what, his weird behavior all of a sudden, and then all of a sudden I'm having anxiety attack, and so then I noticed it enough that it was just like, you're doing this because of me. And so then it was a matter of training him how I wanted him to alert me, so that way I knew exactly like what was happening, try and teach him how to communicate with me, so I knew what was going on. And so he was a dream. He has been a dream dog. Just anything I needed, he just stepped up to the plate, and so then it just was a matter of, teaching him how to communicate with me, so we had clear communication. Because they can't be like, "Hey, you're about ready to have an anxiety attack. You need to sit down."
Right.
or "Hey, you're going to disassociate and completely not even know where you are at this time, or how to exit the building." And, so
the alert was very helpful.
Yeah. The alert was very, very helpful. And then, of course, I trained also for deep pressure therapy. So either he would, if he kept alerting me enough and jumping up on me, then it was like, "Okay, Nicole," he was trying to tell me, like, "You need to sit down. I need to do more than just alerting you." So then I'd have to sit down. He'd come into my lap, and then kind of like lean into me to provide the grounding effect by sitting on my lap and then leaning into my chest, as well. And then if it was severe enough, he'd eventually then jump up onto my chest to tell me to lay down. So then I would lay down, and then he would just lay on my chest. And he wouldn't get off even if I told him to, until he said it was okay, essentially. So then he would go off, and then I'd be like, "Okay, cool. Now I can get up and do my stuff."
What an incredible boy you are, Kiba.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, everyone looks at you weird. Like when you're in the middle of a restaurant and, like I was out to dinner with some other friends with service dogs, and Kiba alerted to me. And so I was like, okay. And so I started kind of doing some breathing exercise, and stuff like that. And then he was like really trying to jump up in my lap. So I looked at everyone. I was like, "Are you guys cool with me sitting on the floor?" And they're like, "Yeah, do what you got to do." And then of course the other people in the Denny's that we were eating at looking at me weird because I moved my chair aside and I'm just sitting on the floor with the dog in my lap and
Oh my
my
goodness.
food up on the table, and I'm just like, nope, this is what I have to do until he moves.
Hey, you know, we all do what we have to do, and to heck with other people. But that absolutely, once again, proof that dogs are so much smarter than most of the people I know.
And once again, the views and opinions expressed by Kat Cohen, the executive producer of this podcast, aren't necessarily reflective of the thoughts and views of Corgi Town USA.
Yes.
Thank you. Anyway, continuing, Nicole, you also have another working.
Yeah. So now that he's retired, I recently, a couple of years ago, it was 2018. Towards the end of 2018, I've always wanted a cardigan because I wanted to try out like the difference between the two breeds. And so I happened to, and so it just kind of worked out that when I was ready to finally get my cardigan, it was time for Kiba to start kind of, weaning off of Kiba, training a new dog. And so my cardigan is CL. He's a blue Merle.
Yeah.
He's off laying down elsewhere.
He's on.
He is very close to me. Like normally he's usually laying right next to me, but I guess because Kiba's right here, he's like, oh, Kiba's got this. It's okay.
Yeah.
But like with him, he's not so much
Is the
natural.
presentation?
Huh?
Going where I was going to ask is the present same?
It's different. Just because Kiba naturally picks up on me, whereas CL, he doesn't have the natural alert. Like I've noticed it sometimes, but it's not consistent like how Kiba was. So unfortunately he doesn't have the natural alert. So then I had to go in and train him how to respond instead. So he is more of, a medical response. He will actually alert if my heart rate does start getting up to about 120. That's when he'll usually alert. So he's still responding to my body's natural things, but he's not responding so much to the chemical imbalance like Kiba was. CL's just picking up.
Does he lay on you as well? Or what does that look like? Yeah.
So the response is at first CL, if my heart rate does start going up, he'll usually sit there and kind of like either he'll put his paw on top of my foot to help ground me. And then if it does become bad enough, he will sit there and kind of like nudge my leg, for me to sit down. And then kind of the same thing with Kiba, if I need to lay down, he'll push more into me so that I know, okay, I need to lay down so you can actually lay on my chest.
That's supposed to be so cathartic for a corgi to be like, I'm the boss anyway. Oh, you actually let me be boss, where I get to tell you how to do some things.
In those moments, yes. Other than that, though, they know that I'm the boss.
Sure, right. Of course.
Except for Kiba.
Kiba. Kiba. I love Kiba. They do have anxiety, depression, they have in which they think that a support animal would really help them. What would you advise to those people on how to get started?
So the biggest thing is I'm going to say right off the bat, there are no registries or anything like that. Those are all scams. They mean actually nothing by law. Yeah. Especially because a lot of them charge. And so it's good to know that they mean absolutely nothing. So you're not wasting your money. And another big thing I would say is start by reading the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. Get very familiar with the law on service dogs with that, just because so ada.gov, And then of course you can search service animals on there. Just because that's pretty much just going to become your Bible. Essentially. A lot of people don't realize the ADA actually covers businesses more so than it does actual like service dogs. Just because that's what we're mostly dealing with, is going into businesses and stuff like that. So it literally will tell you, if a dog's out of control, a business, even with, if CL's having an off day and I go into, a business, a store, a restaurant, whatever, and he starts barking uncontrollably and I can't get him to stop, they can ask me to leave. One, I already know that, so I would just leave anyway, but they can actually legally ask me to leave and come back without my dog.
Right.
And so then that's just up to me if I want to, go back in or not.
It does not give you a free pass to have a disruptive, is essentially
and just have an out of control dog. So a lot of businesses don't realize that and stuff like that. That's why I'm like, as long as the dog's behaving, whatever, cool. Right. But if they are being disruptive and stuff like that, it's, I'm like, why don't most people like feel embarrassed anyway? Normally just out and about, like if I go into PetSmart or Petco, or just a pet store, my dog's out of control, like I would feel embarrassed.
Well, I think as humans, we all have varying degrees of self-awareness. So there is that.
There is that. But good point to know, if you have an emotional support animal, which, as you had pointed out, the rights that they do and do not have, but if you have an emotional support animal, or if you have a service dog, ada.gov, be conscientious of the humans and pets around you, and read up on what the business can and can't do, and don't get all.
It's good to know the rules.
Yeah,
it's good to know the rules. It's helpful to know the rules. And
because you hear. I would say you hear and see so many like videos of people posting of like, oh, this business came up to me and said my dog wasn't allowed in here, and then they go off and stuff like that. And it's like actually the business was in the right.
And that's part of the balance. I mean, it's so wonderful that we can have these working support animals, but they also need to be taught manners, just like our pets do.
Absolutely.
And we all have to be respectful of one another. Of course, it's very important for us as an owner of a support animal that you have that you are able to bring your support animal with you to places, but it's also to be respectful for others as well, that they are taught manners, and that you're respectful of that as well. Life is all about that elusive balance and trying to respect one another.
Exactly.
But we did. So I did have one final question. We do need to wrap up, because so our listener viewer can go do corgi things. But we did want to ask, what would you tell someone? A lot of times, if it's a working animal, often, not always, but often there will be some indication on the collar, on the vest, or something, or even if someone verbally tells you this is my working animal. Can you tell us how, as a person that's a passerby, of course, I'm a dog obsessed nut. So I see a dog and I just fall apart, and all I can think about is the dog. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of the world. I'll stop traffic because I'm like, look, a dog. But if someone is passing and they see the working breed, how is one a passerby to react? Sometimes you can't pet them if they're working. Sometimes you're not supposed to acknowledge. You don't want to overstimulate the animal. What would you say to that question?
The best thing, like, you can squeal, because honestly, service dogs should be trained to the level that they should ignore that. Especially because it's a regular thing, so they should be trained enough to ignore it. But honestly, like, just, you don't have to keep your distance, go about your business like normal. The best thing is just kind of essentially just ignore them. Don't take pictures or point and stuff like that, because then the person, the handler, is what we call ourselves, of service dogs, or we call ourselves teams. We feel like we're kind of just like on display. We become like a walking freak show at that point, and it's like, even if our disability is invisible, all of a sudden now it's on display for everybody.
Right, and that could cause anxiety as well. So so
and it
please
can cause
be
a lot of
respectful.
So just be respectful. Like I said, you can get excited and be like, oh, look at the dog, on. I do the same thing when I go out and I see another team or something, I just get excited and I'm like, doing a good job. Even though my dog's walking right beside me, I'm still like, that one's doing a good job.
Look at the good boy and good girl over there. That's awesome. But you would recommend ada.gov that you go take a look if listener and viewer, if you are considering bringing on a working animal into your life, so that you can look at the rules and then look at what you need to look at. If it's breed temperament, what training looks like, as Nicole's saying here. Some inherently have the gift, and then, but it sounds like many of them also need specific training. And when I was talking about ESAs, we trained Digby. Well, yeah, we didn't. There wasn't anything official. What we trained for was socialization, being respectful in public. We've done some kind of control work with him because he's kind of nervous. He's kind of nervous. Hyper. So he's very easily distractible. I call him Digby the Doof. Because he's just a real big doofy boy. But we've done some work with him on control, and that he's got all eyes on cat, and he's done really well with
that. He does really well
to hone in on you.
He almost the same thing. When I am depressed, he quiets down and comes right up to me, and that's how I ended up with him.
Yeah, bonded to you right away.
Bonded to me right away.
Yeah.
I would recommend, as the eternal business coach that I am, if you want a business, whether retail or not, ada.gov, so you have some idea of what is your right as a business owner and not your right as a business owner. And definitely
and to be educated on just the etiquette as well.
The etiquette
is there are rights, but then there's also etiquette,
Well, that, and if a business knows, so many businesses are scared of getting lawsuits or having these Karens screaming and recording and then posting it online and giving a bad name to the business. But if the business knows their rights, they can eliminate a lot of the dogs that are being nuisances or, pottying in the store and stuff like that, or, whatever they're doing that's causing an issue. It will help
keeping
eliminate
life nice and calm for all of us.
Right. And being able to point out, and I think it's, important for the businesses when somebody says, oh, this business owner did A, B, C, and D. I think it's important for the business owner to say, yeah, but if you look at ADA here, here, and here at ada.gov, you will see that I was absolutely within my rights. That will also, I think, from again, like a coaching perspective, I think that it will make someone else who has a service animal go, oh, okay, it wasn't the business owner, it was the person with the animal, and I will be welcomed in this place of business. So around
I can tell you, when I find out a business, because there's actually 2 legal questions a business can ask. They can ask, is it a service animal? And then what tasks is the dog trained to do to help mitigate your disability? The moment I walk into a business, if I'm asked those 2 questions, I actually thank them profusely. And then I go back and I tell other service dog friends, like, this place knows what they're doing. I feel safe there. And so a lot of them will also go shop in that same place.
They're informed. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, that's wonderful. Thank you, Nicole, so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our broadcast. Thank you so much for your...
Speaking of CL.
Yeah. Hi, CL.
Hi, CL.
We got to party with CL at the Corgi rave. We had a party Corgi rave. Chucky actually just had his knee still on today. I thought, we need to, because it was on his harness. And so when I put his harness on him, I thought, we didn't take your knee off. We've got this party hangover here with the rave knee on. Anyway, thank you so much, Nicole, for that information. We appreciate you so much. Yes. And we hope that you have a wonderful evening.
All right, you too.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Well, if you are listening to this podcast and not viewing, we suggest that you go over to our YouTube page so that you can see CL on camera, because he did visit us there at the very end.
Yes.
And you can also see Kiba. So that was fun. We're here for you every Thursday. We're Corgi Town, USA. We're here for all things Corgi. And if you have any questions about working animals and considering getting one yourself, as for what Nicole said and what we back up, go to ada.gov. They have all the rules there. And of course, we are Corgi Town, USA. I'm Candy. This is Kat. Chuckles is in my lap. And somewhere around here is Digby and Wiggin. Yeah. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Corgitown USA. Like and subscribe so we can be with you every Thursday in your home or your mobile, wherever you like to party, so that we can discuss all things Corgi. Have a great night.
Thank you. Bye.